I welcome you all to this course on web technologies. As the name suggests, it's a bundle of technologies that you're going to have an hands-on experience in this course. Okay, so today we are going to actually see some of the introductory terms or terminology that is associated in your web technologies. Okay, so the prerequisite for this course is one should have good hands-on and programming experience in Java and MySQL. Okay, this course is intended to impart the knowledge of website designing, web page designing, and the data processing activities inside these web pages. Okay, so the various tools that you would be getting hands-on experience on is the front-end tools as well as the back-end tools. Okay, so for the front end, we are going to have HTML, okay, JavaScript, XML, okay, AngularJS, which is a very latest technology. So through this course, you will also have good knowledge on these front-end tools. The second half of the syllabus is purely on the data processing activity, that is server-side programming, the client-server architecture. Okay, the technologies that you would be learning here are JSP, servlets, JDBC, and then you have Java Beans as well. Okay, so after learning this course, the student will be able to develop some websites, okay, and not only just mere websites but interactive websites. That means that means the student is able to establish that communication from the real world. Okay, he can extract data whatever the user is submitting, right? Some online shopping websites, bank transaction websites can be developed. Okay, that is what I mean, the data processing activity, starting from day-to-day shopping activities to your banking transactions. Okay, so all these can be done, and the student will be able to appreciate AngularJS, which is a very latest technology having the complete web application control. Okay, through the servlets and JSP, the core technologies. Okay, a student is able to get a hands-on experience of managing the website or managing the web application as a whole. Okay, so then finally the database connectivity is also an important part of the syllabus that a student is able to appreciate. Okay, so finally today we are going to have a small session on an introductory session giving you some basic terminology that we come across in day to day on these web technologies course. Okay, first let's see what's an internet. So as you know, it's a interconnection of networks and between computers. That means it's a connection between computers, right? And let's now see the background. I'll not tell you how to use internet or what are the various applications of internet, etc., but I will first begin with how it all started. Okay, so research, it is actually a fruit of one of the research done in research institutes, university, right? And early research was performed in US. We call it as DoD, Department of Defense. Okay, the project was this research project was titled as ARPANET. That means Advanced Research Project Agency, ARPANET, under the guidance of Department of Defense. They have tried this small experiment and were successful, and today we are actually using, right? So completely life is dependent on internet, right? Day begins with internet, day ends with internet. So that's all because of the efforts from that research project ARPANET. Okay, some little history, and anyways you are going to actually see a very detailed history of this internet, TCP, IP, etc., in your course computer networks. Okay, so let's now quickly review only the terminology for our course. So Ethernet was developed by Xerox in 1969, and Ethernet is a protocol which describes how these computers should be connected, the rules and regulations which are to be followed. Okay, so in 1973, Windsurf and Bob Kahn have created this communication protocol stack. We call it as a protocol stack, and both are separate. TCP is separate and IP is separate. Okay, let's now see what is TCP is dedicated for and what is IP is dedicated for. TCP is to establish between application software, that means between your browser and your network software. But whereas IP is only responsible for the communication that is happening with other computers. That means basically it deals with the it gives you a little this thing about the addressing that is followed in your postal service. Okay, so IP is taking care of addressing service while TCP is taking care of communication service. Okay, so that's why we call it as connectionless protocol and connection oriented protocol. Let's now see what is IP responsible for. Okay, so IP is responsible for sending a packet to correct destination. Now here comes your postal service. What do? You write, you put your document in an envelope and you write the address on the envelope. Okay, so the address consists of the country, the name, country name, district, mandal, village, etc., and the pin code, importantly, right? So similarly, IP, every computer, in order to communicate with other computer, every computer should be identified uniquely by an address. So that address is nothing but an IP address. Okay, so in simple terms, the IP address is composed of this four stacks, that means four numbers, okay, and separated by the dot operator. Each one number can be between 0 to 255. Okay, that's how the IP address has been composed, and there are IP address versions also, v6, v4, etc. We will see it clearly in your computer networks course. Okay, so then we have domain names. These IP addresses are very difficult to remember, right? So that's why what we do, we map the IP addresses, or we maintain a table to convert the IP address, each one IP address, into an English word called as domain name. Okay, so that it is very easy to remember rather than this 12-digit long number. That's why we have this domain naming service. That's why this is called as domain names. And a domain name server is one which maps or which performs this mapping between the IP address and this domain name. So finally we have an URL. URL is used to address a document on the web, and the name that corresponds to an IP address is in the DNS is also known as a URL. Okay, the complete web address or the full web address is something like this, and URL usually has a syntax of the scheme, that means the protocol name, colon, double slash, the name of the host, dot, domain or the country code, colon, port, and the path and file name. Okay, so that's the syntax. Then we have the URL codes. So for international use, the domains end in the country code. Okay, so .ie indicates that it is an Irish website, .fr indicates that they are French websites, .co.uk is about your United Kingdom. Okay, and some other URLs which end with .com are all commercial websites, .me is personal website, okay, .edu is educational website, .gov stands for government websites, .org is a non-profit organization, NGOs, okay, and .net is the network service provider, okay, and .mil, so military applications. So like that we have this famous person, that is Tim Berners-Lee, who created this set of technologies for the World Wide Web. See, internet is different and World Wide Web is different. World Wide Web is a huge collection of so many resources, okay, and in order to create some resources like that, you need to follow certain standards and guidelines. These standards are nothing but World Wide Web, okay, and the standards are usually under the control of w3.org. Okay, so in 1980s the web didn't exist, and slowly in 89 they started with one proposal on w3.org with one set of guidelines of how these URLs can be populated with huge content. Okay, so the language used to write these content is HTML. Okay, so how do we use this internet? This internet could be used in all these various things that you do in day-to-day life. These are all applications of internet, right? So email is an application, FTP is an application, mobile internet is actually an application, the video conferencing is an application, the social networks is an application, right? So these are the remaining things: online learning, gaming, right? All these other things. Now the important launch pad for your internet is your browser. Okay, browser is very much essential, or browser is very much required for you to launch your applications onto the internet. Okay, so browser actually acts as a vehicle through which you can actually browse, surf the internet, and download the content, etc. Okay, so now what are the various browsers? These are all the various browsers. Like there is a Google Chrome, Opera, there's Mozilla Firefox, there is Internet Explorer, and there is this Netscape Navigator, etc. Okay, among all of them, Mozilla is one which will actually frame or formulate the guidelines on which the standards need to be maintained. Okay, so the web was mostly text based. You can see that it is accredited for popularizing the World Wide Web, and people started thinking about adding videos, sound, graphics onto this web, and many people have come up with a lot of innovative activities on the web. Okay, now today I should tell you that not only content, but we are able to even execute your programs without help of any softwares, right? So there are online compilers, online interpreters, online cloud platforms. I mean, complete computing systems, high parallel computing systems have now come to this era of internet. Okay, so that's how you can see, and these are the fundamental standard specifications. Okay, so here you have this universal addressing system, that is URL, or uniform resource identifier, or uniform resource locator, and these are some of the standard protocols. HTTP is one protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, then HTML or XHTML we call it as extended hypertext markup language. CSS stands for cascading style sheets. CGI means common gateway interface. Okay, so that's about little introductory and little things on protocols. Okay, so thank you for this wonderful opportunity.